Hi, ma'am. Welcome to the session.
Hi. Hi,
Hi, I'm
Diksha. How
doing
are you doing?
great. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you
Sure,
for
of
having me.
course. So we'll just wait for a few minutes for more people to join in, and then we'll begin the session. Um,
Sure.
so before
Sure.
we begin the session, uh, what do you expect out of this session?
Oh, well, um, I think the last discussion when we were discussing about the
Right.
stress of examinations. So, well, I'm hoping that through our discussions, we help the parents to understand how we as a school uh, are dealing with the stress of examinations where our students are considered as they are also gearing up for their
Right.
boards and other examinations.
Right.
Yeah, soon.
Absolutely. Um, so we do have a good number of viewers now, so I guess we can begin the session. Is that right with you?
Sure,
Okay. Okay.
sure.
Great.
Why not?
So, hello everyone. My name is Deeksha, and I'm the senior content marketer at EduFund. So, because this is the season of board exams and just exams in general. So, I'm sure students are going through a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. So, we thought what better topic to discuss than exam pressure, right? So, the topic of this discussion today is how to deal with exam pressure. How can you help your students or your children deal with the pressure that comes from exams? So, the speaker for today's session with us is Mrs. Aruna Shetty. She is the head of principals at 21K School and she holds over 20 years of experience in the education industry. We're very excited to have a discussion with you on the topic, ma'am. Welcome to the session.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So before we start addressing the questions, I would like to talk a bit about EduFund. So EduFund is India's first investment and advisory platform to help Indian parents not only just plan for their education but save for their education, their child's education as well, be it calculating the cost of their future education to planning and saving for it. We have multiple features on our app. Parents can also learn about finance through interesting quizzes, interactive stories, blogs, and videos as well. So do not forget to check out the app once the session ends. But we have really amazing tips and great questions and a great conversation with you all. So let's begin the session then. So, ma'am, since the topic is, exam pressure, and before we start addressing all the questions that we received from our followers, from people around us, I wanted to sort of understand your experience. What was your relationship like with exams when you were a student? Because I remember I was the kind of student who would only study for exams like one night before the exam happens. What was your relationship like?
Uh, well, I come from a family where examinations were given a lot of importance and a lot of stress was, kind of placed on scores, percentages, ranks. So in my entire schooling, I always was a student who was an all-rounder. But then I also stood within the first 10 ranks. And yeah, I think I was somewhat like you, where I was not one of those kinds who studied or crammed through the year, but preferred to kind of, focus just few days before the examinations. And yeah, I managed to do pretty well. And though I did not, I wasn't too ambitious of standing within the
Right.
first three ranks. But yes, my parents always, were, oh, you could have done better. Oh, you could have done better. But
Yeah.
then, yeah.
Right. So all the students who are watching this live right now, just know that even though ma'am used to do it at the last moment, she always scored really well. So remember that. But as you mentioned, a lot of pressure from parents and all that. One thing, because we live in a society where there's a lot of comparison. Parents a lot of time parents compare their students that you have to score better than the other kid in your class and all that. So, which also brings a lot of pressure to the students. So what do you have to say about that?
So, first of all, I think as students, we need to identify, our strengths in terms of knowing, okay, what is it that I can deal
Right.
with, and what is it that I can do. It is also a matter of interest where there are some students who are intrinsically inclined towards, preparing well in advance. So there is no right or wrong to preparation, but of course you need to be focused and you need to have very realistic goals in terms of completing the syllabus, in terms of your revision, in terms of, even your anxiety levels. So these are all ultimately what adds up to your state of mind when it comes, to the day of appearing for your examinations, right? And it is always as an individual also, see, I may be good, but then I may be someone who's an extremely anxious personality.
Right.
So in times like this, it is always very, very good to reach out to the
Right.
family, to reach out to friends, to talk to a lot of people around you. It is always good to have to create your own comfort zone when it comes to dealing with pressure or anxiety. I think it kind of resolves a lot of things. And when you are in, when you are at ease in your mind, I think you can do things a lot better.
Absolutely, yeah, correct. I mean, reaching out to people and getting that emotional support really helps with the anxiety. So, with this COVID-19, this work from home became a new norm, right? Everyone was working online, working from home, but a lot of research suggested that the levels of depression and anxiety actually rose by about 40% during only the first phase of the restrictions pandemic. So, given that the major model of 21K schools is completely online, how do you make sure that your students do not go through any kind of mental stress?
At 21K school, any which way, the way our pedagogical
Right.
approach is that we consider each child unique in their own,
Right.
abilities. So what we try to do is that we make the entire journey of learning, to be very student centric. And we look and train at students developing responsibility for their own learning within their achievement level. So it is not like a one glove fits all, or the expectations are the same for all the children, right? And this is made very clear to the children at 21K school. So when we look at the whole journey, students are we look at skill development. We look at giving them enough opportunities to collaborate, to interact, to engage in dialectical thought, and then to kind of reflect on their own learning, which is at a metacognitive level. So when students, go through this entire process where they not only learn to appreciate, their own or accept their own level of learning, they also appreciate another child's, ability to cope with how the journey of learning is, and maybe learn from that. So when you have a very collaborative nature of learning, each child learns from the other, and that whole process is what makes it enjoyable. And without actually knowing, every child gains at the end of it all.
Absolutely, yeah, very, very, very well
Yeah.
explained. And before I jump into the next question, I just want to, give a brief introduction about the session to everyone because we have a lot of new viewers have joined us. So, hi everyone. The topic of this session is how to help students or children deal with exam pressure. The speaker we have with us today is Mrs. Aruna Shetty, who is the head of principals at 21K schools. So, please, whoever have any questions or doubts that they want to ask the speaker, please drop your questions below. And we actually, ma'am, we received a very interesting comment here. Mehvi says that, sorry, ma'am, I am late. Don't worry, this is not a class. You can be late, but I hope you're enjoying the session, Mehvi. Another really interesting question we got here from Megha. And this is for something I think this would help majority of students, people like me who used to cram at the last moment. She wants to know how to deal with severe anxiety the night before the exam.
You know what? The best way to think about an examination is that think you're going for a
Right.
performance. Think of yourself as an artist. And what does an artist do before maybe a dance performance? So they practice, they practice, they practice. And then on the day of the performance, they just go and
Right.
enjoy themselves on the stage. And what you really, when as an audience, you watch the performance, is you see how much you enjoy because you're seeing the performer, the dancer
Mhm.
perform beautifully. So think of yourself as an artist who is just going on stage. So you have prepared
Right.
before the examination. Now, on the day of the examination, all you have to do is just perform, right? So look at your examinations as all of your effort, your hard work being translating into something that is going to get you the results. And the results will be, in the form of appreciation, a feel-good factor. But what anxiety will do to you is sometimes in that, in that nervous state, you may just forget some of the important things. So it is very important that you calm yourself down. So to calm yourself, what is it that calms you? Is it, listening to some good music? Is it about talking to your parents? Is it about talking with your best friend? Whatever calms you down, is it playing with your dog or cat? Whatever it is that calms you down, do that. And then just forget about the examinations, go to sleep. Have Do something that you like doing and just go to sleep. Next morning when you get up, think about me going for a performance, feel at ease with yourself, and then just go and sit in that hall wherever you have to write your assessments. Trust me, you will feel good about writing a paper when you've had a good
Absolutely,
night's sleep.
very well said. A lot of times, students spend the entire night just mugging up the syllabus and they're then just dozing off during the exam. So it also like it can affect your grades as well. So we
Yes.
it's great to see that a lot of fifth graders, sixth graders are actually watching this live right now, and a lot of them have this common question that they want to ask is how many hours of studying does one require to complete the syllabus for a fifth grader or sixth grader? I guess in general, everybody is asking for tips to just finish their syllabus before the exam.
Oh my God, I'm just reading someone who's saying that, ma'am, I study for 6 hours and sometimes
Oh,
10
wow.
hours. What do you study for 10 hours? Oh my God, I think 10 hours is, well, if you think that those are the number of hours you need, then I really think that you should think about what it is that you're studying. Are you just kind of memorizing things, or are you trying to understand whatever it is that you are supposed to learn? So there is a difference between rote learning and understanding. So when you understand something, I think you don't then need to sit spending 10 hours on something, right? So what is more important is that instead of just memorizing to regurgitate the answers, it is very important that you understand what you are reading. So your learning happens when you make understanding more enduring. That when you understand something, it has to be the level where you're going to remember it for the next few years and not forget it immediately after your examinations. So that learning does not really make any sense. So think about why you are learning, whatever it is you're learning first. And when you are learning something, try to understand your learning so that you remember it and you're able to translate it in the language that you know best, and you can explain in the way that others will understand your understanding. So I think children, what you need to look at is stop rote learning, because that is not the way to, so your 10 hours does not make any sense if in the 11th hour you're going to forget everything that you learned for the 10 hours,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right?
Well said. I mean, education only makes sense if you can actually understand it and use it later in life rather than just mugging up and forgetting after the exam, right? And Mohsin here also says the same thing, very well said. He says that more than thinking of getting grades, understanding the concept is something more important, he believes, which is very good. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
See, in today's world, I'm sorry,
No, 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 please.
Diksha, if I may also add. See, in today's world, the whole education system is moving towards skill. So for the children who are listening, it is about acquiring the skills that you need to apply in, the given situations tomorrow in the world, right? It is not enough for you to understand how to ride a bicycle where you just memorize the whole process and not be able to ride one when you're given one. It's as simple as that. So please understand how you're going to use your learning contextually when you grow up, or even in now, where in whichever grade you are. And that is where the learning is going to take you a long way, because you're equipped with the skill to apply it than to just remember it.
Absolutely, that's correct. So, this is something that I found very interesting about 21K School is that the entire approach to education is very skill-based. So, I wanted to understand how do you think this really helps student, get, I mean, it absolutely does help students get an immersive experience, but does it also help them with, making the learning much easier so that they don't go through a lot of stress?
So, see, the whole approach within 21K is one of collaboration. So we consciously do our planning where we engage students in individual, pair, group activities where they have, their interpersonal skills are developed, their interpersonal skills are developed, their social skills are developed. They learn to share ideas, and they kind of engage in a lot of discussions and conversations that help them to enhance their learning. We also have now introduced the hybrid model through our, which is high tech, where our students will also be given platform to meet in the physical, world and collaborate in the physical space. So what we are trying to do is give the students enough of experiences to take their learning, out in the world there, and indulge in a culture of collaboration that kind of enhances their entire learning process. When you do this, what happens is that the entire journey does not seem like that I am only learning for myself, but through collaboration, there is so much of learning that happens through this interactive, sessions that we have. Plus, what we look at is that we believe in a lot of agency, where the students are responsible for their learning. So it is not only about what they want to learn, also they're given the choice of thinking how they want to learn. So we have a lot of resources at their disposal. The students use, any of the resources that they are comfortable with, and then they have this entire culture of sharing their learning with each other. So all of these make learning very joyful and meaningful for our students, and it doesn't really seem like they're learning. It seems like, a fun experience.
Right, absolutely. This is a very interesting approach. And so, when we used to be in school and prepare for exams and all that, we were not really aware of what effect the results and the subjects we choose and the way we, experience our education is going to have what kind of effect it is going to have in our, future life. Do you think that exam scores and the results actually have the ability to affect your entire life?
So, see, whenever you're looking at scores, you're looking at marks. Let us just reflect on, the results in our country. How many of us have this memory of, the 10th grade, board exam, first rankers, second rankers, also figuring amongst the top in the 12th boards or anywhere else? So those numbers, if you see, they're not really consistent, right? So that means that a child who has fared exceptionally well in the 10th board, has he essentially fared also as well in the 12th board? Why would he not fare or be a top ranker in the 12th board if he was in the 10th board? So the thing is that, so maybe he must have been very comfortable with his learning in grade 10, and for whatever the reasons, may or may not have, had enough of stimuli to perform as well in the 12th board. Now, when you put this pressure of marks, percentages, it is not necessary that every child gives in their best during every board exams. But it is also not necessary that a child who has not fared well in his board exams is not going to do
Absolutely.
well in life later on. So ultimately, it is only about, how well you take your learning to a level, that helps you sustain in the world, in the real world, isn't it? Scores are temporary. If they would have been consistent, then everything in our life would have been ranked and scored. So while, of course, to have some definitive outcomes and results, yes, there are certain grades and scores that are assigned. But when you have a system where assessment is more for learning and as learning
Right.
than off learning, which is when the assessments are more qualitative in nature and not quantitative, I think it makes the whole journey so much more fun for a child because he does not have the fear of being judged.
Absolutely.
He's just performing because he has to give in his best and not really, kind of have to live it up to the expectations of the family, the neighborhood, and, the locality at the end of the day. I am performing because that's how I want to perform and with absolutely no expectations. And that is how at 21K school, our assessments are where the students are as much a part of their evaluation as is the facilitator. We give constructive feedback to the child in terms of, the areas that they could be better in. And I think when you give constructive feedback, a child reflects on his own learning and attempts to, kind of enhance the areas where he has received feedback on. As against me telling a child, you've stood first, that's it, the end of the world, you've stood first, where do you go from here? So
Right.
it is an end of a road, if, that's it. But when you tell a child that, hey, you've performed great, but why, just be great? There's always scope to be better than that, right? So there is hope and scope for a child to look at and reflect, introspect, and see, okay, where do I go from here? There's scope for me to be better, right?
Absolutely.
And I believe that that's the way we have to, look at assessments or the way we evaluate children.
Absolutely. Yeah. Basically, the doors are always open. God only knows how many of us actually did not pursue their career and the subjects they actually chose in their schools or colleges, or people just change their entire career field toward their late 30s, 40s, even 50s. So the doors are always open. And Lucky here says, because previously you were talking about providing agency to the students and making them, share their learnings with each other. Lucky says that they do miracles through agency and collab, which is very well said. So, you also talked about making education and learning fun. How do you think we can also make exams fun for students? Or is this something that's very, very difficult?
No, I really don't see why exams cannot be fun. If we do not really put on the pressure, of you being judged after your assessment, I am not
Right.
stressed. Okay. So what we do within 21K school is that half of the time our students don't even know they are assessed. So what happens is that they are being assessed all the time. It is continuous that they are being evaluated on. But it is not that, we of course do have our summative assessments, which is at the end of every term. But even that is so skilled that unless a child, so skill-based that unless a child really understands a concept, he's not going to be able to, find an impactful answer. Now, what we need to do is that examinations should not really be about regurgitating answers, which have to be essentially 10 lines, 20 lines, and a mandate is given where, you will score 10 marks if your answers are 20 lines. Okay.
Right.
Why do children have to write 20 lines if they can explain their understanding in 3 or 4 lines? So why do do I have to go through the trouble of reading those 20 lines, which may just be a whole lot of, nonsense, and it does not really make
Absolutely.
sense, but because it is a question, carries 10 marks, or the expectation is I have to write a minimum of 20 lines, which just means that I have to write 20
Absolutely.
lines. But if the same concept can be answered in 4 lines, doesn't it make more sense that I give 10 marks to the student because, hey, the 4 lines just told me whatever I wanted to know?
Exactly.
So I think when you take away that pressure, that you will be judged because of what you write versus how you write, how you explain yourself, I think it makes even examinations easier for the students. We can have skill-based MCQs. Why is it that writing has to be, so lengthy?
Absolutely.
Writing can be short, it can be crisp, it can be to the point. If an MCQ gives you the answers, to be able to select the correct choice from amongst the choices given, to be able to do that, I need to have conceptual understanding, right? I need to know which is the right answer to be able to pick the right answer. Now, we can simplify things, in this world, but I mean, we probably have loved to live in a complicated world, hence we make things so difficult. But here in our school, we have tried to make life easy for everyone. So we have a lot of
Right.
MCQ-based questions, a lot of skill-based questions. We try to make thinking visible through various routines in our school, and we assess the children as learning and for learning as against it being off learning. So yeah, I think that just gives the students the joyful
Absolutely.
experience, of not being stressed because we have examinations coming up.
Absolutely. And very interesting thing you mentioned that, rather than fear of exam, it's more of fear of assessment. And, it actually brings a lot of pressure to students because a lot of questions that I'm receiving here, people are asking, um, how do I get rid of the pressure of marks, or how do I talk to my parents about my bad results because it gives a lot of pressure. So, yeah, this is something that a lot of students need to understand, that, make it make it an experience for yourself when you are just learning and just competing with yourself rather than the entire class. It's a very interesting, approach to exams here. So, another question that we are receiving here from Saeed. Saeed is saying that I think he's asking this question on the behalf of all the students out there. Can you just revise a chapter or the entire syllabus in one day?
No,
Short answer.
I don't think facilitators have to be, yeah, our facilitators should not be considered as magicians. And there is only so much magic we can do in the class, and that magic translates into us loving you so much. And the rest is all between, how you like my class and whether you want to be in my class. And that's how learning happens. If you are with me, you learn. That's it. And no, once again, you cannot in one day complete the entire syllabus.
Absolutely. You may able to mug up the important things, but again, then you're gonna forget everything the next day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Understand?
What takes a year cannot be achieved in a day, my child.
Well, I hope, Sai, then a lot of students out there who had this question in their mind, I hope they got their answer. And unfortunately, we are running out of time, but this was a very interesting conversation. And people who still have more questions to ask, please keep commenting. We'll also save this video on our page, so you will also be able to keep commenting even after the session ends. But before we end this session, ma'am, is there anything that you would like to, say to the parents or students out there?
Well, first of all, I would like to tell all the parents out there that let us have realistic expectations of our children, because every child has their own abilities, their own skills, and their own talents. Let us focus on what they have versus what another child has and compare them to another child who may be better, academically than your child. But I'm sure if we look into what abilities my child has, then I'm sure we will find that and we will nurture the child in the areas that they need to be nurtured. So if we stop comparing, we will realize that we have a gem within our own homes. And today with the world, giving us the opportunity to excel in any field that we want. And I think we should just look at those options than to just look at grades, scores, or marks as the benchmark for good performance. So let us change the way we think about education and make it more skill-based than marks-based. And where the children are considered, for my dear children out there who are listening to me, you are beautiful in your own way. You need not be as good or as bad as the next child. And when it comes to your assessments, like I said, enjoy your assessment and enjoy your learning journey. When you enjoy, you will see that assessments are just absolutely not a big deal at all. And when you enjoy what you do, it just translates into good scores, right? And really, does it matter if you're happy, attempting a good assessment? So be happy and see that you enjoy the journey of learning, okay? At the end of it, there is always a rainbow out there.
Absolutely.
So all the best to all my students who are attempting their assessments, and all the best to the parents too.
Absolutely, very well said. Well, all the students out there understand your syllabus, and all the parents out there understand your children. It was a very lovely conversation with you, Mrs. Shetty, and we really look forward to having more such conversation. And I'm very sure that all the viewers got a lot of insights through your amazing answers to the questions. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much. Thank you for
having me.